What's up, future shredlords? Welcome back. This little lesson here is about synergy and, of course, flip-flopping and its importance, if you will, in your everyday playing, right? Learning how to create tension and release, which is really what flip-flopping is. Sometimes certain scales are more synergistic, right? But then you have other times where you want to do a setup and then a resolution. And then there's other times where you want to do a setup and then maybe a deceptive cadence or something else like that, right? There's like so many different ways of expressing this nonsense. But my point being here is that it's the sort of the tension and the release, or the setup and the sort of like payoff, whatever that is, right? That's the crucial element that you have to start to synthesize. That you're like, when I start playing these scale systems and whatnot at a sequence, like a minor pentatonic at the Locrian position or at Phrygian, you create like a certain measure of tension, right? So the trick is to build up that tension enough and then resolve it to the parent key or another sympathetic key, right? And then just get that really killer effect. And that is a masterful art, and it's not easily achieved. So that's what you're going for, right? And the key here is again, scale systems basically can be moved around like a giant slide rule. So 3 notes per string, if I move it from the first position down to that first position's 5th position, and I start playing the first position again, so a major scale over top of the Mixolydian, I'm going to get like a Lydian feel. And again, there's the pentatonic scale at Locrian, at Phrygian. That's a nice one. Melodic minor at the 6th degree, resolving to, again, the parent scale, in this case, E major. Right? So I'm basing a lot of stuff off everything in E major, right? So when I want to go down a half step, I'm in Locrian. When I go down a whole step from there, I'm into the Aeolian position. Another whole step, Mixolydian. See where I'm getting at there? So I'm like, oh, here's the Mixolydian pentatonic, or I can play a major scale and get the Lydian flavor, or a major pentatonic to get the Lydian pentatonic kind of vibe. You see where I'm getting at here? That right there is a huge step forward in any sort of like player's mindset, and really crucial to essentially ascend to the next level, because it's no longer about shapes and designs, because it gets very formulaic quickly. You have to be very quick on your feet to be a great improviser, right? And also have a great ear. That's another big one, and that's hard to train. That's why these exercises are so good, where it's just one chord the whole time, or one sort of, I'm just using the bass because that's way more appropriate to sort of exemplify the real major level changes, but you get the idea there, right? So, you know, ignore the shreddy parts, if you will, but try to concentrating on the idea of hearing this sound, and then the flip or the flop and whatnot. And then also where I'm sort of like, you know, either making cool resolutions where I'm ascending, where I keep piling on the tension and then resolving it to something new, or tension, resolve, whatever it is. That's really the essence of music. So in your practice sessions, basically, not only are you really trying to just learn the scale shapes and stuff like that, but you're like, if I move this major shape, just the major scale itself, down to the Mixolydian position, the 5th degree of whatever key you're working in. So if it's G major, that's D. You're now going to play D major. You'll get a Mixolydian feel. Or sorry, a Lydian feel. And it's a really cool sort of like idea. And of course, you can just keep building out from there. Right? Job's done. So here are a couple examples. Get your guitars out, start practicing and whatnot. But again, just sort of choose something like this. There's lots on there. You know, if you know who this is, you should know exactly where you can look for this backing track. It's the first one. It's awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, really sort of like train your ear. Don't just go in there blind with a bunch of, oh, I'll play the scale shapes, yes, to a certain degree. But instead, you're also starting to train your ear to be like, I recognize this. That's Lydian, right? And there it is. That's the big reveal. Once you make that connection, you've unlocked a huge door to the next golden set of armor to slay the dragon of metal. Right. Okay. Enough. See you in the next one.